So hello everyone, today we will learn about the 20 most important situation based questions and case study for KVS NVS interview. We all know that today the answer key of both KVS NVS and EMRS has released. So kindly share your marks for PGT Geography if you can. So let's get started with the first question. Suppose students are memorizing geography facts but cannot apply concepts in real life. How will you handle this situation? So sir or ma'am, according to Pedagogy and National Education Policy 2020, learning should move from rote learning to conceptual understanding. I would use activity-based and experiential learning methods. For example, while teaching urban flooding, I would ask students to observe drainage conditions in their locality and relate them with impermeable surfaces and unplanned urbanization. In this way, students learn applications of concepts instead of only memorizing definitions. So question number 2, if students are not interested in math work, how will you motivate them? So I would first explain the maps are the language of geography. Then I would connect map work with the real life situations. For example, students use Google Maps daily. I would ask them to identify routes, rivers, transport network and nearby landforms using maps. After that, I would gradually introduce atlas and thematic maps. This creates curiosity and practical understanding. Question number 3. Imagine a student asks, why should we study geography in the age of AI and technology? How will you answer? So I would explain that geography helps us understand human environment interaction, climate change, disasters, resources and sustainable development. Even AI and technology depend on geographical data like GIS, remote sensing, satellite mapping and location analysis. For example, disaster management systems and weather forecasting depend heavily on geography. Therefore, geography remains highly relevant in the modern world. Question number 4. Suppose there is a flood in the nearby district. How will you use this event in classroom teaching? So, geography teaching should connect classroom learning with current events. I would use the flood situation as a case study to explain rainfall, river discharge, floodplain encroachment and disaster management. Students may analyze causes, impacts and mitigation measures. This develops analytical thinking and environmental awareness among the students. Question number 5. If an interviewer asks, how will you teach climate change to class 11 students, what will you say? So first I would explain the concept scientifically and using NCERT terminology as greenhouse gases, global warming and anthropogenic activities. Then I would connect it with the local examples like the heat waves, irregular monsoons and cyclones. I would also encourage students to discuss sustainable practices such as afforestation and renewable energy. Thus, students understand both theory and real life relevance. Question number 6. Suppose weak students cannot understand latitude and longitude. How will you simplify the topic? So I would use globe demonstration and simple visual explanation. I would explain latitude as imaginary horizontal lines and longitude as vertical lines. Then I would relate them with real world location identification. For example, just as we use greenhouse addresses to locate a home, latitude and longitude help us locate places on Earth. Visual learning improves conceptual clarity. Question number 7. If students depend only on guidebooks and avoid NCERT textbooks, what will you do? So I would explain the NCERT books, focus on conceptual understanding rather than mechanical answers. I would regularly use diagrams, case studies and exercises directly from NCERT. I would apply design, classroom discussions and assessments based on NCERT concepts so that students naturally develop interest in the textbook itself. So, question number 8. Suppose a student challenges your explanation during class. How will you react? So, I would appreciate the student's curiosity because questioning is an important part of learning. According to constructivist learning, students should actively participate in knowledge construction. I would listen carefully, encourage discussion and clarify concepts using evidence and examples. This creates a democratic and learner-friendly classroom environment. Question number 9. How will you teach monsoon mechanism in an interactive way? So I would first explain the differential heating of land and water pressure belts, ITCZ movement and seasonal wind reversal using diagrams. Then I would ask students to relate the concepts with their own experience of seasonal rainfall. I may also use weather maps and satellite images. This makes the topic visual and meaningful. Question number 10. Imagine your classroom has students from different linguistic backgrounds. How will you ensure inclusive learning? So, inclusive education means equal participation of all learners. I would use simple English, visual aids and maps and diagrams. If necessary, I may briefly clarify difficult terms bilingually. Group activities and peer learning would also help students learn collaboratively. The aim is to create a supportive classroom environment. Question number 11. Suppose students say geography is not only theoretical. How will you change their perception? Is only theoretical. How will you change their perception? So I would explain that geography is highly practical and applied in nature. So it is used in urban planning, disaster management, environmental conservation, agriculture, transport, GIS and remote sensing. I would use field observations, surveys and local scale case studies to show practical applications of geography. Question number 12. How will you deal with classroom indiscipline during group activities? So I would establish clear classroom rules and assign responsibilities to each group member. I would monitor activities actively and ensure that learning objectives remain clear. Instead of punishment, I would encourage positive participation and collaborative learning. Good classroom management depends on communication and engagement. Question number 13. Suppose an interviewer asks, what is the difference between teaching and learning? How will you answer? So teaching is the process of facilitating knowledge, while learning is the process of acquiring understanding and skills. So teaching should be learner centered. The teacher acts as a facilitator who guides students toward independent thinking and conceptual understanding. Question number 14. If students perform poorly in examinations despite classroom teaching, how will you analyze the problem? So I would first evaluate whether students have conceptual clarity or only superficial understanding. Then I would analyze teaching methods, assessment patterns and learner difficulties. I would use remedial teaching, map practice, short conceptual discussion and formative assessment to improve learning outcomes. Question number 15. Suppose you are asked to teach resources and development through a case study. What example you will use? So I may use groundwater depletion. So I may use groundwater depletion in northwestern India as a case study. First, I would explain resource utilization and overexploitation. Then I would analyze causes of such excessive irrigation and tube oil dependency. Finally, I would discuss sustainable resource management practices. This develops analytical understanding. Question number 16. How will you integrate technology into geography teaching in a government school with limited facilities. So even with limited facilities, I can use low cost and accessible methods like mobile based maps, printed satellite images, weather charts, and simple digital presentation. Technology integration does not always require advanced infrastructure. It mainly requires effective visualization and interaction. Question number 17. Suppose students ask controversial questions related to population or regional inequality. How will you handle them? So I would answer objectively and scientifically using verified data and a scientific perspective. Geography teaching should remain unbiased and evidence based. So I would encourage respectful discussion and analytical thinking rather than emotional or political argument. Question number 18. If an interviewer asks, how does geography help in nation building, what will you see? So geography develops environmental awareness, disaster preparedness, resource management understanding, and responsible citizenship. So it helps students understand regional diversity and national integration. Knowledge of resources, agriculture, transport, and population planning contributes directly to national development. Question number 19. Suppose students are afraid of geography diagrams and statistics. How will you help them? So I would simplify diagrams step by step and explain statistics through practical examples. For example, population graphs can be related to real census trends. I would encourage repeated practice and interpretation instead of memorization. Gradually, students gain confidence in visual and statistical analysis. Question number 20, and this is the last question for today. If the interview board asks, why should we select you as a geography teacher, how will you answer? So I believe geography teaching should develop conceptual understanding, environmental awareness, and analytical thinking among the learners. I follow the NCERT and NEP 2020 principles such as experiential learning, competency-based education, and learner-centered pedagogy. I try to connect classroom concepts with real-life examples so that students develop curiosity and critical thinking. My aim is not only to complete the syllabus but also to make geography meaningful and relevant for students. So thanks for listening. Keep listening for the further audio classes. Thank you.